Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I would like to discuss how Nigel Farage got knocked back from a debate on the Welsh elections taking place next year. In 2026, the Welsh Parliament will see the first fully representative elections to take place for any British Legislative Assembly, and Reform UK will be hoping to do well. But Nigel Farage wanted to represent his party in a television debate, but has been knocked back on the basis that he's not a candidate. But this raises an interesting question. Why did Farage even want to front the debate? I can think of only two possibilities, and neither of them bode well for Wales. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So a little reminder that I'm in a video discussing Reform UK on Piotr Kurzin's channel, link in the description below. But wait, let's take a step back and think about Welsh politics at the moment, because you may or may not notice, I don't get a lot of comments about it, admittedly. Don't really cover Welsh politics much on the channel. Like almost never. And the reason for that is because it just sort of gets on with it. I know we had that little situation a couple of years ago where the Welsh Conservatives decided to go mad about 20-mile-an-hour zones when the legislation they were moaning about was their legislation. And in fact, that actually showed how Wales just sort of works. Conservatives are never forming a government in Wales, and yet the Conservatives presented the Welsh Parliament with this idea. Oh, we think this would be good for road safety. And everyone else, there was no party politicking going, oh, you're Tories, go away, go and sit in the corner, we're not listening to you. It was like, oh, yeah. It shows that everyone was willing to look at an idea from anyone if it appealed. And they did, and they went ahead with it. And then the Conservatives, when it was going to become law, started complaining about it. But just politics in Wales just gets on. And it's quite interesting. One idea that was put forward by Mark Drakeford, who was the First Minister for quite a long time, till recently. And he was saying that in Wales, because Labour had never had a majority there, they always have to work with others to get legislation through. And that made them all much more willing to work across party lines. And potentially that is why Welsh politics doesn't get discussed much, because it just functions. Like politics in Northern Ireland and England and Scotland it's on fire most of the time. It's quite dysfunctional. And in Wales, they just get on with it. And that's quite nice. And now Nigel Farage is threatening to bring poisonous politics even to Wales. So yeah, next year we'll see parliamentary elections in Scotland and Wales. And Reform UK will expect to do particularly well in Wales. Not only is their support there stronger, but the proportional representation system will mean that they don't even have to be that strategic about it. Not that it was a problem for them in the council elections last week, where the percentage of seats they won far exceeded their share of the vote. But, you know, not a lot of people vote in council elections, so lower turnout helps what are seen as the insurgent party. But the parliamentary elections next year likely to be different. Higher turnout, and the malaise with the National Labour and Conservative leaderships will be a factor, not as big a factor. And of course, you know, both of those things could change in a year anyway. Reform UK are currently polling at about 25% for voting intention in Wales. Reform UK do not look like they could form a government, even in coalition with the Conservatives. But a strong showing could certainly make the more progressive coalition, which does form, weaker, and also, you know, cause a lot of trouble if they get a lot of MSs. Wales always has some form of alliance needed for government, but a two-party coalition is way better than three. Fewer arguments. Also, the better Reform UK do, the more they will feed the narrative that they are gaining momentum nationally. But what's this about Nigel Farage wanting to front the television debate? Now, he might be the national leader for Reform UK, but he won't be deciding policy in the Senate, or at least he shouldn't be. And it raises an interesting question about Farage's intentions in terms of how he intends to manage the party in Wales. Now, why did Farage want to be in this debate? I can think of two reasons. First, he doesn't trust any of his Welsh candidates to do a good job of debating. Or second, because he sees himself as the policymaker, as the leader of the party, and thinks the Welsh public should get to listen to him because he's the one deciding policy. Now, if it's the second one, that's interesting, because let's hypothetically say Reform UK could form a government in Wales. And that would be their intention, of course. Farage would not be any part of that government. He wouldn't even be part of the Assembly. Are we supposed to think that Farage will be telling the Reform First Minister what to do in the Welsh Parliament? Bear in mind, Keir Starmer doesn't tell Eluned Morgan, Labour's First Minister in Wales, what to do. The Welsh Government is managed entirely by its own members of the Senedd. In fact, Morgan set out just this week some positions of Welsh Labour which are at odds with Westminster Labour. Obviously, leaders within a party work together, but there's no direct chain of command there. The Welsh and Scottish Parliament do their own thing. Individual councils do their own thing. Metro mayors do their own thing. Like Westminster Labour, for example, we know they've got a policy of not going back into the EU, at least for now. The policy of Labour's Mayor of London is bollocks to that. They don't have to all have the same policies. Obviously, if there were wild variations within the same party, you might wonder if some were in the right party, as actually sometimes people do. But it's normal to have different policies because they're serving different electorates who all have different requirements. So obviously policies will vary to a degree. That's just democracy. If Farage tries a one-size-fits-all approach to policy, it's not going to work out well. Also, if policies were to be dictated from outside the Welsh Parliament, that's not very democratic. It would basically be saying that the people Wales voted to represent them are not representing them at all. They exist to rubber stamp orders from some Penfold in a Politburo in England. And if Farage doesn't intend to take over policy making in Wales without a personal mandate, then we go back to, well, it must be his desire to be in the debate must be because he doesn't rate the abilities of even the best of his candidates for the Welsh elections. It's hard to interpret this in any way, which makes it look like Reform UK could possibly work out for Wales. And remember, this is a PR election, the first proportional election for elections to a British legislative body in history, like fully representative. There's, remember, even in the Holyrood elections and the previous Senedd elections, there's always a first past the post element to it as well, a big one as well. Right now, it doesn't seem possible that Reform UK could form a government with anyone. And hopefully Labour will look a bit better nationally as their big legislation gets passed into law and people see the impact later this year. And Welsh Labour do a good job of distancing themselves from the unpopular stuff and aligning with them on the popular stuff. But regardless of what happens in the election, Reform UK are obviously aiming to form the government there. That is their plan. So are they going to form a Welsh government led by someone Nigel Farage doesn't think is good enough to even front a debate? Or are they going to form a puppet government where some posh tosser from England tells them what to do? But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for listening, and until next time, I'll see you later.